Alright, Goodwin Race Team back at it with another video for you guys. So, we will be getting at these lowering springs today on a 2020 Dodge Charger. Should be pretty simple and pretty easy, but let's get to it. Got to drive up, get this thing on a place where I can actually jack it up, take everything apart and whatnot. So, let's get to it. So, we are here. We've got the Charger jacked up, and we have gotten one nut off so far, but here is what we've got. You've got one nut that goes on here, which I've got right here. It is a 21 millimeter, and on the end of this right there, I don't know if you can see it in this video or not, there it goes. So you've got to put like a 10 millimeter wrench, or I got an impact with a long 10 millimeter socket and just did it that way. It's a lot easier for me. Then you'll pull it out that side. You also have a 10 millimeter in here for your brake line. That is right there. It's hard to touch it, but take that one off. Then you can move this brake line out of your way. Then we've got to remove this for the upper control arm. Once we get that removed, then we can go to the bottom, remove this one, which I believe it should, let's see. Oh, it's actually smaller, so it's probably going to be, an 18. Let's check that. Yep. All right, so you need an 18 wrench for the bottom, 21 for the sway bar link, 10 millimeter for the end of that. You'll need, let's see, it's an 18 millimeter as well for the upper nut. There is a spot for an Allen key, so you might have to use that depending on if it'll come off or not. And then you can come up here to the top, pop this little plastic cover off that's right there. I just pulled it off with my fingers. It's pretty simple. Take these three, I believe they are 12 or 13 millimeter. Actually, they may be a little bit bigger. Let's see. 14 is too big, so yeah, it should be a 13 millimeter. Yep, so it's 13 millimeter on top. You got the three up there. Then once we get this out, we'll have this tilted forward. We can pull the strut assembly out, and then we can get our strut spring, talking too fast, sorry guys. Coil spring compressor tools out, and then we can put these 180 from each other on the springs, compress it. Then we can pull the top nut off right here. Once we get that off, then we can pull the plate, pull the spring, swap the spring for our new Eibach lowering springs, which, oh my god, I did not expect this color. The image on the Summit website was a lot different, so these actually look a lot better. The color is amazing. So we're going to be installing these. We have both the front wheels off, so let me get to it, start ripping it all apart, and then I'll get back. All right, so we pulled the 10 millimeter for the brake line, pulled the bottom shock, pulled the sway bar link, and now we're at this top one. We've pulled it already, but we kind of rethreaded it back on there till it was about flush, because we've got to break this loose. I've just got a hammer to kind of whack at it. I need to try and find a rubber mallet. That'd be a little bit more preferred, but we'll hit on the bottom of this nut trying to get this to break free. All right, so it took me about 5-6 decent little hits, and I was able to get that. Now I've got to take this back off. This should all fall forward once I let the jack loose. Oh, another tip, always have the jack up under it when you first do this. Kind of have it a little bit compressed, that way as you take everything apart, then you can kind of slowly let the jack out and everything will kind of slowly fall. Keep these in for last, that way it'll hold the strut in place. Then you can go up here, take these out, and work it all out. All right, so we got everything apart. This kind of just falls forward, and then you can kind of just work it. It wasn't too hard, just kind of push down on this, and I lifted up on the strut assembly and was able to kind of get it popped out over here and get it right out. So now we will be moving on have to get our strut compressor tools on here, get this all compressed up, then we can take this nut off the top. Once we take that off, then all this will come apart and we'll put the new spring on. So now I've gotten everything compressed, got my tools on here across from each other, compress both sides evenly, make sure it's all nice and loose. You can see it's kind of coming off of here. So now that we've got this thing compressed, we can come up here with an 18. Hopefully I can get it with this small one. So this one's got a 10 millimeter on it as well, so this is going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but we'll all right. So once we got everything compressed, I was able to go up here with an opening wrench on that and then get a 10 millimeter on the impact on that, and was able to get all that apart, pulled this off, and then got the new spring on there and made sure I matched up the bottom with that boot as well as the top. And then since these are lowered, I was able to kind of press on it, then get that nut started enough to where it was past that piece right there for me to be able to get my impact on there, and then tighten it back down, and we're back together. Now we just got to put it back on. All right, so one thing I forgot to mention earlier, so as you set everything back up with the strut and the spring, make sure to clock this properly when you tighten down that center nut. If everything's not clocked properly, this will not line up. I did kind of do one side a little bit different. I got it up in there, just had the nut barely started, and I got my 3/13s tied back down where I wanted them, and then I got my 18 millimeter wrench in here and put the closed in on here, and then got my impact with my, I believe, 8 millimeter and tightened all that down. So that actually worked for me doing it in here, and then that kind of positioned everything properly. That might help you for future reference. All right, so we've got everything back together, got the top one back in, got the sway bar link arm back connected, got the bolt in the bottom for the shock right here all the way across, got the 10 millimeter back in for the brake lines, and of course first thing was the 13 millimeters up top. Got all those done, all tightened up. So now she's all back together, and all I've got to do is put the wheel back on and finish with this side. Now on to the next side. Ought to be fun. So we're on to the back, and first thing, my car, I've already kind of done a delete kit for it, but back off over here you've got your active exhaust for your car, and the plug is right there. You need to unplug that, that way you can drop this exhaust. I've already got it unplugged because I have the delete kit for it, so I don't have to worry about that. And then normally you have resonators. Let me get up under here. Normally you have resonators right in here. Obviously mine's all straight piped, and you've got two 13 millimeter bolts right there on each side for the exhaust. That way you can drop it to be able to get this inside lower control arm bolt out to be able to drop all this. Let's see. Another thing, you will have to remove the shock bolt. That way this will release and you'll be able to drop this out. So let me get at it and I will get back to you. All right, so we've got the springs installed, got everything tightened back down. Now, when I started putting this back together, personally, I did it a little bit different. I had the jack up under here the whole time to kind of control everything as it's going up and down. But I got this shock bolt in first down here, right there. And then obviously I just put my 18 millimeter opening wrench on there, put a, I believe it was a 8 millimeter socket on the impact, tightened it down that way, then gave it a few extra with the wrench personally, and then worked my way to the back. Obviously you can see a little bit of marks on my exhaust from where it was kind of hitting it coming out, but I did take that 13 out over here. It didn't drop the exhaust a whole lot, so don't expect it unless you go further up and drop the next one, but it was enough for me to kind of push on it out of the way and kind of work it with my fingers with the jack, and I was able to get it out, get the new one in. Just kind of had to work it a little bit back and forth. Once I started getting it in, I got it in most of the way, and then I had to line up for that other side, so I had to kind of work the jack in a few different spots around here up underneath, and finally I got a spot and I got the impact and it was able to go all the way in. Then get your nut back on there, tighten it all the way, and put your 13 back in your exhaust, and that is pretty much it on the back. Obviously make sure you keep your rubber boots in, make sure they're in the right spot. They do have a kind of stopper in that boot for where the end of the spring should line up, so make sure all that lines up, then you are good to go. So now we are done with this side and we can move on to the next one. All right, all finished up now all the way around. So now we're just getting the wheels back on and tightening everything down, and then we'll drop it. It looks amazing in the front, man. Can't wait to show y'all the full walk around. Whew. And here we are. Sheesh. Came out so good. Oh man, oh man, just wow. Man, I can't even barely fit 2 fingers in there. Wow. This thing turned out absolutely amazing. I love it. Jesus Christ. Whew. Alright guys, that's it for the video. If you like it, please subscribe for future content. We'll be doing more things to it. This is just a step in the process of what we will be doing. So if you like this type of content and you want to see more of it, please subscribe. I do appreciate everyone that does. Appreciate everyone that's viewing these, and have a good night.